So I just had the privilege today of meeting Sharon Tefteller. Now, her husband is one of my favorite cousins in the world. As you heard me a minute ago, I call him Bumpin'. That's the father of our Honorable Judge Todd Tefteller. But Sharon has quite an amazing company down in Frankston, Texas. It makes some of the finest hats that I've ever seen. I spent a little time this morning looking at their website and looked at some hats, and I may end up in trouble with my wife before this is over with because I forgot that I needed a new felt. And it's about that time. So, anyway, without anything further, I'd like to turn the time over to you.
Hi, my name is Sharon Atwood, Tefteller, and it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. And I'm going to tell you the story of Atwood Hat Company. And about 27 or 8 years ago, my husband retired. He was 67. We had a propane company, and he was 67, and he retired for about 15 minutes, which was about his limit, and he was bored to death. So he grew up wearing a hat. He could never leave the house without a hat. His daddy wouldn't let him. Well, he also baled hay. We have a ranch, and he also baled hay every summer. So how many of you have ever been in the hayfield in the summer? How many of you ever worn a straw hat in the hayfield in the summer? You know what happens to that straw hat? Right around where the crown meets the ground, excuse me, it just turns nasty, sweaty, and dirty. And if you're a man, your wife is going to say, you can't wear that hat out to supper with me. And I was that wife. I was like, you cannot wear that hat. And he was like, well, it's the only one I've got. And I was like, well, you just can't wear it. So anyway, after he retired, years before that, we went to Mexico frequently. And he bought a palm leaf hat in Mexico at the market. And it didn't fit him because it was round. Hispanics' heads are round. Most Americans' heads are long oval. And it didn't fit him, but he wore it in the hayfield. And he wore it, and he wore it, and he wore it, and he wore it the next year, and he wore it the next year. Well, he would go to the coffee shop every morning, to the cafe, like a lot of men do, I think, and they would solve all the world's problems, but all his friends would say, hey man, where did you get that hat? Because I need one of those. Well, after he did his 15 minutes of retirement, he thought about it, and he thought, I'm going to go to Mexico and figure out how I can get some of these hats in the States. So he did his research, and he found the hat making district in Mexico, which happens to be in the state of Michoacan, and a little town of about 300,000 people that's probably about the size of Athens, but it's the hat making place, the industry. There's a silver district and a leather district and whatever. And so that was the hat making place. So he went down there, went to several different factories, told each of the people at the factory he wanted this many hats in this many sizes in a long oval, and they had this long to make them. And he stayed down there till they had got them all done. And he came back to Dallas, and I picked him off the plane, and he had these boxes tied with ropes with everybody's hats in them. So he brought them back home and got them all out and looked at them and looked at them and tried them on and tried them on. And out of all of those hats, and I'd forgotten how many people he went to, 5 or 6, only one man had made the hats in the right size. The others had put the sizes inside the hats, but the hats were all the same size. So that didn't do much good. So he thought, okay, I found the man who's honest. So he went back down there and he went to that factory, and that particular factory, and the manager of that factory was within about a month of closing or so, and the man was within 2 weeks of losing his house because things were so bad. So he made arrangements with the guy to start making some hats. He told the guy what he wanted. We had to have all the forms made for the hats because they were long ovals. And the forms, I don't know if there's an American name, an English name, but it's an orma. It's what it's called. But they're aluminum, they're heavy. There's a bottom, like for the brim. There's a top for the crown. And you have to put them together to make the hat. So he talked to the guy, told him what he wanted, went to the place where they make the ormas, had them all made a hat. You have to have one for each size hat. It's not one size fits all. You have to have an armor for every size hat. So we had them all made, went down there and just stayed and stayed. And he spent most of a year in Mexico. And they started cranking out hats. They made some hats. And he brought them home, and we had a little portable building behind our house. We live on a ranch, and we had a little portable building behind our house, and he put those hats, I think he had a couple of hundred hats. He put them back there, and his friends would come out and try on the hat and try on the hat. Well, then word started getting around, and in a minute, people were kind of meeting him. And at the time, I left out, at that time we had a propane company from which he had retired. But I was still working. So he got a phone number, put a phone on the corner of my desk, and occasionally it would ring, every week or two it would ring, and I would say Franklin Lights Gas instead of Atwood Hat Company, because I didn't know what I was supposed to say, and but he would, somebody would want to come look at hats, so he would sell him a hat if he had his size. Well, one day we were riding around Dallas, and he looked at the World Trade Center up there, and he said, well, let's go in there and see what it would take to get a booth. So I was like, okay. And we went in, and we got a booth at the next show, and we set up, and we had a table about the size one that Brandon is sitting in, and we had 3 hats. We had 3 styles of hats. And we put our hats on that table. We had a 1-page black and white brochure that had the picture of those 3 hats. And people came by, and they would look at them, and they'd pick them up, and they'd look at them because they had never seen a Mexican palm leaf hat before. We were the first people to bring Mexican palm leaf into the country. Before, there was Guatemalan palm, and they're Dunkin' shapes. They're real loosely woven, and you dunk them in water, get them wet, and then shape them. But we were the first people to bring Mexican palm leaf into the country. And so they would look, and we sold a few. We might have sold 100, and we were pretty excited. We thought that was pretty good. So we went home and called the factory manager, and he made the hats and the sizes, and we got them shipped. And then we went to the next market, and then people started calling. Hey, I saw this hat, it had your name in it. And so one thing led to another, and before long, we were selling more than 100 hats at a time. And we started going to Denver, and at that time, Denver had the largest Western market in the world. And especially, it was in September, and people came from all over the world to just the Western market, and they were looking for hats and everything else Western. And that market has since closed, and it's moved to Dallas, which is good for us because it's close. But, so we went up there, and we didn't have a booth, and he was walking around with his little catalog, walking around market, and you have to be a member of that particular organization to have a booth in that show. So he was walking around, and somebody told on him, showing people his pictures of his hats, and he got caught, and he was told he couldn't do that, and so, but he did anyway, and he just kept on walking and showing people hats. And then the next market, we had a booth. Somebody who was a member, we joined the organization, but you have to have points to get a good spot. So somebody who had a spot let us share their booth with them, and we sold more hats. And then we outgrew the little portable building, and we rented the old bank building in Frankston, which was empty, and we rented the old K. Woolens building in Frankston, which was empty, and we rented the old 5 and Dime building, and then also the Christian Life Center across the street from the bank building. Before it was over, we had all those, and we had 2 girls working for us, and they would walk up and down the street with their cart, barefooted in the summer. They'd walk up and down the street with their cart full of hats, taking them to wherever they had to go get them, whichever building they had to get them out of. So it was just palm leaves. And palm leaf, there are different qualities of palm leaf. Palm leaf comes into the factory in a huge bale, and it's grown down in Mexico, and they harvest it and they plant it into little bitty ribbons. And this is a bigger one because this came off the edge of the hat. But I'll pass this around, but this is what it looks like. But the real ribbon, and this will split because it's been cut. The real ribbon is just about that wide. And they take that into that ribbon, and they start at the top of the hat, and they start sewing a little circle right here in the top of the hat. And they sew in circles until they have a crown. And then whoever's at that sewing machine sits that crown down until they have a stack. Somebody else takes it and adds another piece of ribbon and starts until they have a brim. And then they take those hats that are they don't have any finish on them or anything, and they press them into whatever shape we have ordered them to press. Now this is an inexpensive palm leaf hat. It's called a green palm, it's dark, it has a lot of oil in it, it's really tough. Great hat for working hats, and but it's still a nice looking hat, but it's a green palm. This is the same hat, but it's been burned, and why these are popular I do not know, and I don't care as long as they sell. But they have been very popular. But this is the same hat with a bound edge that's been burned. But also, then and this is a lesser quality, then it goes to a whiter hat. And this is a finer palm leaf, and you're welcome to come look at these anytime. They're sewn a little bit closer together, and from there it goes to a little bit whiter hat, and from there to the best quality palm leaf, which is, if you look at them all really closely, you can tell that this palm leaf is really closely sewn. It's really well made. And sweatband's a little better. You know, the quality improves. Those of the palm leaf improves, and so does the product. But it's just, they're all good hats. They're all handmade. Each one of these hats is handmade, and if you make them up here, it costs you $300 for one hat. But this hat, I don't even know what it sells for, but I think it's about $60 is what this hat sells for. So they're affordable. You can wear them more than 1 year. They get dirty kind of all over, and they're tough. You can sit on them. We had one man bring a hat into the office one day, and he said, your hats just won't stand a brush hog. I mean, he had just clipped the top off of that hat. And so we gave him another hat to replace his hat. But I'm gonna see how much that hat costs, because I don't know. $67.95 is that hat. But they do come in different qualities, and they're tough, and they do get dirty all over. They just don't get dirty around here. And you can wear them more than 1 year, and you haven't spent $100 on a straw hat that you can wear 3 weeks and have to throw away. Well, then the palm hat business flourished. Everybody started copying us. And one thing I will say that Dick Atwood did for the hat industry, he totally changed the hat industry. Totally changed it, because he came up with a low crown Hereford. And this hat style, he came up with this style. He lowered the crown, kind of did this, and this is the best selling style hat we make in whatever. And everybody was like, well, hey, maybe we better start getting in the hat business, because the word going around the industry was, oh, those palm leaves are just a fad, they're not gonna last. Well, here it is, we're in our 27th year, and they're still here, and we still sell a lot of them. And because this particular style sold so well, everybody else started copying us. Resist All Stetson, everybody copied this particular style hat. And everybody else went in the palm leaf business. But there are some really good knockoffs, but they're still not as good as ours. We have great quality control. And because, they've got the Atwood name in them, so if they've got your name in them, they gotta be good. Well, so my son says, well, hey, Dad, you gotta start making straw hats. And he was like, no, I'm good with a palm leaf. And he was persistent, and so we went in the straw hat business. And I'm gonna show you, this is what a straw hat looks like when we get it. It's just this. And a straw hat, and this hat, when it's finished, is about a $130 hat. But a straw hat looks just like this, and it's made out of paper, because straw hats are paper, woven in China, and the different styles, different qualities, different whatever, just like the palm leaf, but this is how we get them. And when you put them on, they look just like this. And so, we take this hat, and this hat could have a wide brim. But we take this hat, we have a palm leaf factory in Mexico and a straw hat factory in Mexico. And we can make some in Frankston, but not a lot, because we don't have the facilities. But they take this hat, do the same thing, put it in an orma, shape it and finish it, and send it to us. So it's amazing. And a felt hat body looks a lot like this, only it's more shaped. It has more shape to it. It's not just a flat something like this that you can fold up and wad up and put in your purse. But the first time I saw one of these, I thought it was Jen painted. First thing I saw it was Jen painted. So we started making straw hats. And we make several different styles of straw hats. The most current style, popular thing at the moment, is an open crown. This is an open crown hat. It's the most popular straw hat on the market now. Has no shape. Well, so these hats, each one of these hats has to be shaped. And you can take it and put it over steam and crease the top or put a 2-dot in it and shape the brim, whatever you want to do, and turn it into a style to suit yourself. And you can tell when kids are doing their own hats because they look like a kid has done it, but they love them, and that's what counts. If you look at a lot of these rodeo riders, they're wearing an open crown hat that they have shaped themselves, and I mean, hey, that's great, it saves us some trouble. A lot of people buy them and say, hey, I want y'all to shape that hat like this and this and this, and then the straw hats go to the felt shop, and my son shapes every one of them by hand. It's a little time consuming. And a lot of them, this is a 4.5-inch brim. 5-inch brims are really popular. 4 inches were the most popular for a long time. Now 5-inch brims are really popular. So then we went in the straw hat business, and then we did this, and this comes in a lot of different styles. And I forgot to tell you, I put catalogs on your tables if you want to look at them. I brag, those are my twin grandchildren on the covers. That, you know, the straw hat business is really good too. We ordered those bodies from China, and they come, I think we went and picked up a load yesterday in Dallas. And then we have to take them to the border to Laredo and leave them with customs, and Mexico comes to the border and picks them up and takes them into the country. We're trying to figure out a way to get them shipped directly to Mexico, but we haven't quite done that yet. This hat, this Gus hat, this is a Bangora. This is the cheapest straw hat, but it's the coolest straw hat because it has all these holes in it. And it's not expensive. You can buy it and wear it. It comes in all these different styles as well as this Gus style. I just happened to pick up this, I think Charlie picked up this one. And, but this is a really inexpensive hat, but it looks pretty good. And it's pretty tough, not nearly as tough as some other straw hats or as a palm leaf, but it's tough enough. If I were, I could crack this really easily. One difference between a palm leaf and a straw hat. Straw hats have wire in the brim, so you can kind of shape them yourself. Palm leaves have no wire in the brim. And you can steam them and shape them just like you do a felt hat. If they get really nasty, if a palm leaf hat gets really nasty, stick it in the sink and scrub it with a brush and clean it up and take it out and turn it upside down and shape it like you want to, and it'll be fine. And it won't look as good as it did when it was new, but it'll be a clean hat. You have a hat to wear. So then, after the straw hat thing, my son says, Dad, we've got to start making felt hats. And Dick was like, no, I'm not making felt hats. I'm not going to do it. Not making felt hats. And Brooks was like, I'll learn how to make felt hats. So he was like, we're not going to make felt hats. And Brooks was like, I'm going to learn how to make felt hats. So he did. And finally Dick said, well, whatever, you know. So Brooks went and talked to some hat makers and started making hats, and we got some hat bodies in, and he ruined a lot of hats learning how to make hats. But that was okay. That's how you learn, is by practicing. So he started making felt hats, and he learned how, and our felt hat business is just phenomenal. We can't believe how it has grown. And the difference in our felt hats and a lot of people's felt hats is I could put, in this felt hat, I could put in the front of it, I could say, this is a 1000X felt hat. Well, it's better, you can't beat 100% of anything. 100% is the best there is. Well, this happens to be 50% beaver. This hat is 50% beaver and other hairs, and it's been handled so much it's dirty. This hat sells for about $500 or $600. This is 100% beaver hat. This hat was a mistake. Somebody ordered this hat, and it's gotten something on it, but somebody ordered this hat over the phone, insisted they wore a 6.5. Can you tell how little that head is? Can you see how little that really is? And the girls were saying, are you sure it's a 6.5? Because a 6.5 fits a child. Oh no, he wears a 6.5, he wears a 6.5. Well, he wore 7.5, which is huge. So anyway, we made him this hat, and of course it didn't sell, but this hat sells for $1,200. And it's 100% beaver. There's the only kind of fur in this is beaver. My son also makes a felt hat, private label felt hat that starts at $1,000 and goes to $2,500. And he is one of 2 people in the United States that can make that particular hat. And so he has learned how to make hat. He's learned how to make it very well. And like I said, our felt hat business has grown, and right now we are 6 to 8 months out on felt hat orders. And if you look in the back of the men's catalog, on page 16, it tells you which quality, how much hair is in what hat. Like a 5X is rabbit and wool, a 7X is Argentine hair and rabbit, and it goes on up from there. And we also make a wool hat. A wool hat, I didn't bring one. A wool hat is 100% wool. It's an inexpensive hat, great hat if you just want to put a hat on to go dancing. That's the only reason you wear a hat. You can buy a $90 hat, and if you just want to go dancing, and they look pretty good. They're thicker. They're obvious. If you know hats, you can tell the difference. Our ladies' hats, our ladies' fashion line. These are really popular. This comes in the ladies' catalog. There's several different colors of these. And I didn't bring a speckled one, but this one and the speckled one that's in the catalog are our most popular sellers. And we just make hats. We just sit around and make hats. Our offices are on our ranch, and our offices and warehouse are on the ranch. And so everything that's made in Frankston, the felt shop is in Frankston. We have a storefront in Frankston, and the felt shop is in Frankston. But everything there comes to the warehouse and is shipped out of there. We have a tremendous, tremendous crew working. One lady starts her 26th year, April the 1st. And then we have another couple that have been there 17 or 18 years, and everybody, we're very fortunate and blessed to have good help, because if you don't have good help, you don't have much of a business. We have great people who answer the phone, we have great people in the warehouse. We just are blessed with very good people. And one story I want to tell you, you've heard me mention hat bodies. And one guy that our manager is the one he goes to Dallas to pick up hat bodies, and he kind of has a heavy foot. And he was flying back from Dallas one day, not literally, he was driving back from Dallas one day, pulling the trailer full of hats, and he got stopped. And the officer said, so sir, why were you going, you know how that did happen, why were you going so fast, is there an emergency? He said, no. And he said, so what have you got in your trailer? He said, bodies. And with a straight face, bodies. And the officer said, well, maybe I better look in the trailer. So Junior went back there and opened the trailer, and there was these just bundles of things. And Junior said, they're hat bodies. And the officer said, okay, just go on. So I think he was going about 95 down the freeway. So he didn't get a ticket, and his sense of humor got him out of that ticket, which it hasn't always. But that's pretty much, I think, our story. It's been a fascinating ride. It's been very interesting. I mean, you never know when you're a kid what you're going to do when you grow up. Never in my wildest imagination did I think that I would ever be in the hat business. But anyway, here I am. And like I said, we've just been very blessed and very fortunate. And I'll be glad to take questions if you have any. Yes, sir.
Question about that straw hat being made out of paper?
Yes, sir.
I thought it was some kind of straw, like it grew in but it's paper, like what kind of paper is it?
I don't know. All we know is that all straw hat bodies are paper. And, then that's one reason they're not so sturdy. They're not as sturdy as a palm leaf. And I can't imagine having the patience to sit down and weave and plait all that paper into little strips, or the palm leaf either. I can't imagine, because those bales of palm leaf are huge, just huge bales of palm leaf ribbon. And they put them, one thing I left out, they put them in a wringer, like an old-timey wringer washer. They take the end and start running it through the wringer, and run it through that wringer and flatten it out. And then they grade it, however, whatever they think quality it is. So, and our palm leaf hats all come with stampede string loops. If you need to tie them down so they won't blow off, they come with little loops sewn on them right there that you can clip a stampede string on. Keep them on your head if you're in the wind. But
do you retail them anywhere else or just?
we have over 2,000 stores. We sell to carpenters and boot barns.
So can they go to market and buy them, or do they have to come direct to y'all?
No, they go to market.
Yeah.
We set up a booth in market. At market, we have a 50-foot booth.
In just Denver, or do you do Atlanta or Dallas?
Oh,
You do Dallas now.
We do Dallas. Denver is no more.
Okay.
Atlanta is no more.
Yeah.
But it's just Dallas, and we have salesmen. We have 11 salesmen nationwide, and they set up little markets, like in a hotel room or somewhere, you know, that they'll show that they have. There used to be a big show in Salt Lake City, the Intermountain Farmers. Purina used to have a big show, and they don't anymore. So I think COVID did away with a lot of stuff. But yes,
The hat that has a burnt tinge to the look, is that really burnt, or is that some kind of ink?
no, it's burned.
You can do that with a fire, huh? Okay,
And
well,
these hats are pressed with fire. There are electric presses, but they're all pressed with gas.
yeah.
Our felt factory in the summer hits about 120 degrees because all those things are fired up. It is so hot in there. So if you want a good sauna, just go visit down there, and you can sweat yourself to death in a hurry. So,
You got an outlet there in Franklin?
yes, sir. We
You
do.
do sell them there?
Yes, sir. And if we don't have it, they just call the warehouse and we bring it to you, if we've got it. We do have a supply issue, just like everybody else right now. We're having a kind of a problem getting palm leaf. Palm leaf season is just now beginning, and so we're buying all we can get our hands on. So we used to keep a year's supply, but I think now we've got about 4 or 5 months is all we've got. So, anybody else have any questions?
Tell us about that hat right there.
Pardon me?
The sombrero.
Oh, the sombrero? We had a guy that made us sombreros and he died. And we don't have many of these left, but I just brought it to show you because I think it's really pretty. It's really heavy, but this is what mariachis wear when they, when they play. But it is so round, It's, this is a 6 3/4. This is a small hat too. But I can't, I've got a big head, but I can't begin to get this on my head. But pardon me?
Is that leather around?
This is leather.
Oh, wow.
This is decorated with leather. And so the man who did this was very talented. He was very talented to be able to cut all this out and glue it on here and do all the rope and stuff. Cause he did the rope too. He wove the rope too. So, but he died. And we don't have very many of these left. But I just brought it because I thought it was pretty.
One more little question.
Yes, sir.
Over the period of years, I think my hat size is lesser. Is that because of hair going down or?
I don't think your brain's shrinking. No, it depends on your haircut.
So it's more the hair than
Your
the head.
haircut, yeah, your haircut can determine what size hat you wear. Sure can. Yeah, I know guys who have hats in a couple of different sizes because when their hair grows out, they have to get rid of a bigger hat. If they get it cut, they have to wear a smaller hat. So that takes care of that. They've got all bases covered. One thing I was gonna tell you, Resistol makes a black gold. Very popular. Their black gold hat is their best black hat. That's all my son ever wore when he got to be old enough to really appreciate a hat from about the time he was 13. The last black nose hat he bought, it rained on it. and he had black ink running down his face. He was not happy. He was not happy. He had never had that happen. And so he was like, well, okay, I'm done with that. I've forgotten how much they even were, $500 or $600, I think the last one he bought. And he was like, I'm not gonna spend that for a hat and have it fade, have it run down my face. But our black hats don't run when they get wet. You know, that's, but oh, I can still remember how upset he was that his hat ran, that his hat bled. So, any other questions?
Now, I was all excited until your last question, Lewis. I may need to go see Dr. King, because I wore a 7.5 for many years and I had a head full of hair. Now I'm bald, I wear a 7.5/8. Explain that. I know I'm gonna have something else I need to see Dr. King about if I don't get a hat on. Anything else to discuss before we adjourn today?